Good evening, gentlemen. Here's something I was looking at. Harsh laws that discriminate against men and fathers. This is an article done by Cordell and Cordell. It's a big law firm that's all over the country. Anyway, let's get started here. Paternity is one of the areas of family law where men are routinely discriminated against. It is so obvious that when I posed the question, which laws in your state are particularly unfair toward men and fathers, to Cordell and Cordell attorneys in 5 different states, each attorney responded with paternity rights. Okay. Whether it is the denial of paternity rights or being the unlawful victim of paternity fraud, fathers must be careful as paternity law is complex. Here is a rundown of some of the harshest laws against men and fathers. Michigan. Imagine that, Michigan. When a child is born out of wedlock in Michigan, even if the father establishes paternity of the child, he is given no rights to custody or visitation of the child, but may still have to pay child support. He can only get visitation rights if the mother consents or by petitioning the court. This puts unwed fathers at an immediate disadvantage because it is presumed that the mother should care for the child and the father has to fight for any rights at all. That was attorney Jill Duffy from Cordell and Cordell in Michigan. Oklahoma. The same is true in Oklahoma as in Michigan, that the court cannot put in place an order regarding custody or visitation without a parent requesting the same when in administrative court, but there is a statute in Oklahoma that in paternity and child support or arrearages cases in district court, the court will make an inquiry to determine if the non-custodial parent has been denied reasonable visitation. The court can then include visitation provisions in a support order if it determines reasonable visitation has been denied. What do they deem reasonable visitation? Sending the father pictures on Father's Day, see what you don't get to see. This law became effective in 1990. However, and no cases have cited it. So how often it is actually implemented is unknown. Wisconsin, Section 9 of the Wisconsin Family Code, paternity. The entire section is entirely unfair to men, beginning with the assumption that the mother is the primary caretaker, and finishing with the point that the father is statutorily responsible for reimbursing the state of birthing expenses if the mother was on state assistance when the child is born. The mother isn't required to pay back the state, though. Isn't that fucking funny? That was from, the previous one was from attorney Catherine B. Lewis. Man, so far it's all been women. This one here from Wisconsin was attorney Tricia Festerling from Cordell and Cordell. Texas, holy shit, look at how big this one is. Under the Texas Family Code, the harshest law on men is the section on acknowledgement of paternity. In Texas, a child's mother and the man claiming to be the father may execute an acknowledgement of paternity that is then filed with the Bureau of Vital Statistics. In order for a father to rescind an acknowledgement of paternity, he must file an action to rescind the acknowledgement or denial no later than 60 days after the date of acknowledgement or denial is denial is filed. However, if a man signed an acknowledgement of paternity mistakenly, believing himself to be the father, or if a presumed father signed a denial of paternity mistakenly, believing that he was not the father, a suit to contest the acknowledgement that is not filed within the 60-day period may only be filed on the basis of fraud, duress, or material mistake of fact, and must be filed within 4 years. Thus, this rule is harsh on a man who is told he is the father, signs an acknowledgement, and later finds out he is not the father, and the 60-day period has passed. He then must prove fraud, duress, or material mistake of fact. And it must be proved within the 4-year statute of limitations. See Texas Family Code Section 160.308. Attorney Jennifer Hankinson. Cordell. Seems as though they're kind of putting up the cheesiest of laws here, and they're all women. Illinois. That's another big one. Let's see. The current state of parentage. They all come up with their own little special words, don't they? Parentage laws requires the father to seek court action to provide him with enforceable visitation rights with his child, whereas the mother is automatically given rights regarding custody and visitation. Even if a father signs a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, which is an acknowledgement that he is the legal father of the child, the acknowledgement form specifically states that it does not give the father custody or visitation. It just gives him the right to ask the court for custody or visitation. This is Illinois shit. However, by signing the acknowledgement, the father is acknowledging that he is responsible to provide financial support to the child, including child support and medical support. Until a court order is entered regarding custody and visitation, the father has no legal right to visitation with the child, even though he has signed a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. This puts the mother in a position to deny visitation to the father until he is able to obtain a court order awarding him visitation. One Illinois statute provides that when the parties have never been married to each other, the mother has legal custody of the child unless a valid court order states otherwise. Similarly, the Illinois paternity statute provides that if the parentage judgment contains no such provision regarding custody, custody shall be presumed to be with the mother. Attorney Aaron Brockhoff. Let's see. Let's read some of the comments. Timothy Ott says, I have had a similar thing happen to me. It was assumed that my wife was a nurturing parent, which she was not. She was self-absorbed and mostly ignored the children. She was messing around with a guy on the side. Brought him into the house with my children and married him. He was physically abusive to her and mentally abusive to my children. Thank you, State of Kentucky, for letting me and my children down. Wow, Kentucky's a fucked up place. Man, this is some crazy shit, dude. This goes to show you how unfair the system actually is towards men. And this isn't the extent of it. I mean, they only talk to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking states. That's it. This is just from 5 states. It's a lot worse in states other than these. And it's ridiculous. Let's see. Let's see here. Harsh laws that discriminate against fathers. Let me look at something else. Domestic violence against men. Fine law. Let's see what this says. Let's see what this says. Domestic violence and all these stupid ass pop-up bullshit windows. Domestic violence against men, created by a Fine Laws team of legal writers and editors. Last updated October 15, 2018. When most people hear the term domestic violence, they often assume that a man is the aggressor. While this may be true in many of the reported cases, domestic violence against men is more common than you may think and can pose a serious threat to its victims. Fortunately, I don't know how fortunately men can ever be, but fortunately men are generally protected just as women are under most domestic violence laws. Yeah, but see, the biggest problem is most men are shamed into not coming forward. That, gentlemen, is a fucking problem. Let's see, domestic violence defined. The term domestic violence covers a broad range of violent acts committed by one member of a family or household against another. It often refers to the mistreatment of a child or spouse and can include not only physical harm, but also threats and verbal, psychological, and sexual abuse. The key distinction between domestic violence and more general assault crimes is the relationship of the abuser to the victim. In other words, family members. Let's see, types of abuse. Most of the time, domestic violence against men only gets any attention when a celebrity is the victim of some kind of noteworthy physical harm, such as when Tiger Woods' wife attacked him with a golf club, or when Phil Hartman's wife shot him as he slept. Even then, the violent acts are often perceived as isolated incidents, and much of the public and private speculation presumes the man did something to deserve it. In reality, this kind of violence is often foreshadowed by actions that may not seem like domestic violence on the surface, but do, in fact, represent a series of abuses against the men, such as using insults, name-calling, and other berating language, interfering with him seeing his family and friends. Oh, look at that. Threatening to expose embarrassing personal information to others, showing oppressive possessiveness or jealousy. Well, that's just about every fucking woman you can come across, isn't it? Restricting his spending or controlling his finances. Oh, that is also considered domestic violence. Would you look at that? Or abuse. Restricting his spending or controlling his finances. 99% of fucking married people, their wives are fucking doing this every fucking day. Shoving, slapping, or otherwise striking him, threatening harm or themselves or others as a way to punish him. Oh, I'm just going to kill myself if you don't do this for me. I'll have my brother come down here and kill you. In both the Tiger Woods and Phil Hartman cases, the violent acts were caused, at least in part, by real or imagined accusations of infidelity, a common trigger for domestic violence. Alcohol and drug abuse also play a significant role in many of these cases. Yeah, but see, every man will go to fucking jail if he tells his wife to get the fuck out before he kills her because she was cheating on him, he gets arrested. Underreporting of domestic violence against men. Here you go, gentlemen. Getting exact numbers on domestic violence overall is difficult since so many cases of unreported go unreported. But it is even tougher to figure out just how many men are suffering abuse. A big part of the reason is traditional gender roles in society and the stigma of the perceived weakness of any any man who admits to falling victim to a woman. Yeah, see there, that's what I'm telling you. Most men are afraid to come forward because they believe that it makes them look weak, that a woman victimized them. Despite some research suggestions that men and women commit domestic violence against each other in equal numbers, the reported victims are overwhelmingly female. Part of the reason for this, for the disparity in reported victims might also be because men who call police to report domestic violence against them fear that they will end up being the ones getting arrested, which is true. When you call because your girlfriend slapped you, punched you, hit you with something or whatever, that bitch goes over there and scratches her fucking neck, and when the cops come in, she says, "He grabbed me on my neck." And you get arrested. Domestic violence against male victims can be particularly reluctant when children are involved, since leaving them with the woman leaves the kids at risk for harm, but attempting to take the children out of the situation risks giving the impression that the man is abducting them. So long as the common misconception persists that men are always the abuser and women are always the victim, it's unlikely that male victims will feel comfortable reporting their abuse. Gentlemen, if you feel like any of this shit has happened to you, walk out the door, call the police, and have the bitch arrested anyway. It is time for real, true equality to come to the forefront. Don't let what fucking people tell you about being a victim of domestic violence prevent you from fucking reporting it. You need to report it. Here, let's see. What to do if you're the victim of domestic violence. A victim of domestic violence or domestic abuse is still a victim, no matter the gender of the attacker. Even as a man, you need to take violence against you seriously, even if you're significantly larger or stronger than the woman. Since little things can escalate into more dangerous situations, self-restraint is important. So be sure to control your emotions and physical actions, especially in states that mandate at least one party be arrested in domestic violence calls. In many jurisdictions, the police will arrest the primary attacker, who may or may not be the person who initiated the abuse. In other words, a woman could have fucking hit you, you pushed her, and she calls the cops and says you pushed her. Now you go to jail. Don't put your hands on her. Just don't put your hands on her. Grab your fucking phone, call the police. If she takes your phone from you and doesn't allow you to call the police, jump out of a fucking window, go to the goddamn neighbors and call 911. She should then be arrested for interfering with your communication, just as you would be if you took the phone from her. While it sounds simpler than it may be, male victims of domestic violence need to tell someone about it. Get out of the situation. there are support organizations in every state. No, there isn't. You're a fucking lying. This is a fucking farce. There is not support organizations in every fucking state for men. They did a study on this, and there was one place in one fucking state in this country. Not in every state. Bullshit. If you're uncomfortable talking to anyone you know, if the abuse persists, consider an order of protection or a restraining order to give yourself additional legal resource or recourse against the attacker. If you're unsure of your options or need assistance in getting legal protection, consult a domestic relations attorney in your area. Yeah, that's easier said than done, because you can't find any of them motherfuckers either that want to take the case. Laws on, let's see, more questions about domestic violence against men. Get answers from an attorney. Okay, so, there you have it, gentlemen. Why the fuck are we allowing this shit to continue to go? Yeah, you know, I'm telling you, I've been fucking victim of domestic violence, and I did exactly what all other men did. Kept my fucking mouth shut. And I should have fucking called the police. I did one time. One time I called the police, and yeah, I was all scratched up and everything. But when the cops got there, there was no proof. No way for me to, other than the scratches and the shit that was that happened to me. And I had one eyewitness that was there at the house. This bitch went to work, and all of her fucking friends at work lied to the police and said she was there the whole time and never left, including the business owner. Pretty fucking pathetic, isn't it, gentlemen? Domestic violence against men is no fucking joke. So, gentlemen, let's not let this shit continue. It's time to end it. All men need to report domestic violence. Period. Gentlemen, this has been a message from MGTOW Quieter. Adios.